Welcome to the Root to Chantal Show. I'm Mimi, your host, and today we have a very special guest, Miss Charmion Sparrow, the author of Drowning, You Can't Breathe Water, How I Survived. This multi talented powerhouse isn't just an author, but she is also a songwriter, has created a sitcom, a card game, amongst many other things. So we want to welcome you, Charmion, to the Root to Chantal Show. Thank you so much for being a part of this. And also, I want to bring up too, you are also a graduate of FAM University. Go
Yes.
Rattlers! Yes, yeah, I had to put that in there. For all
Right.
the FAMU graduates, alumni out there. But yeah, so let's get into the nitty gritty. First, what I want you to do is tell our audience about your story, your journey, how it started, the type of person that you were or you would describe yourself to be when you first started this journey.
First, the journey of overcoming, right? My depression. I had to first recognize that I was depressed. And so, oftentimes, because I was like the go to person for my family, my friends, the person that was the life of the party, always, oh, I need Charmion, 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 Charmion. And so, I'm counseling people, helping people, mentoring people, um, event planning, uh, career coaching, spiritual, whatever the case may be. I was like that person, right? If you needed help, I was the helper. So I was just like helper, 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 right? And so because of that, and because of how much I poured into people and helped people, you know, it was like nobody really believed that I was depressed. So when my book came out, because I didn't tell anybody what the book was about, a few people knew that I was writing something. Um, and because I wrote plays and stuff like that, sitcoms, they was like, oh, okay, what is she writing now? Maybe it's a song or a play or whatever. And so I didn't reveal what it was until I actually finished publishing the book. And so I was like, I have a book. And they was like, okay. And then they were like, drowning, you can't breathe water. Depression? What? You? Like, yeah, me.
Yeah. It's so hard to believe that the person who does everything for everyone, always wears a smile on their face,
Yeah.
is, dibbles and dabbles into everything. Or they excel a lot in what they do. Others find it very hard to believe that they could actually be depressed or suffering from depression, when actuality, I think, in my personal opinion, those are the ones who go through it the most, right? Because it's
Mhm.
like sometimes we wear the weight of the world on our shoulder because we agree to do everything. We always say yes, never say no. We're always willing to help. But deep down inside, it's kind of like we're drowning, like you say in your book.
Yes.
So I think I can totally understand that.
Right. And, especially when there were moments where I could be out, and because of my personality, which is very bubbly, very outgoing, crazy, I'm always, making people laugh. And that continued on even in my depressive state. And so it was like, as long as I was around people, um, it was almost therapeutic for me at some point, because it's hard to make others laugh if you don't have that sense of energy. So a lot of people fall into a state of depression, and one of my steps is like be around people, because that really helps. And I think that prevented me from sinking so deep, because there's many levels of depression, as we all know. And so that kind of helped me, but it was just so overwhelming. And because I was going in and out, it took me a minute to even recognize that it was depression, because how can you, counsel people, mentor people, and still be their light, their savior, their help when you're going through. And so it took me a moment to realize that that's what it was.
And I wanted to ask you about that. So the title of your book is Drowning, You Can't Breathe Water. What can you explain that metaphor, what it means to you, and what exactly do you mean by you can, I mean, we all know you can't breathe water, right? But why did you pick that title for the book, and what does that mean to you?
So with drowning, it's just one of those things. It's water, we're human, and it's certain things that we are not even equipped to do. We're not made to breathe water. And so if you allow certain things to surround you and come within your space and your comfort zone, take over your mind and your thoughts, because a lot of that is your mind. One of the steps that's in the book is training your mind. Uh, you will begin to drown. You will allow life to drown you. And I felt like I was drowning with everything that I wasn't even supposed to uh, indulge in. And so it was a lot of things that was surrounding me that was drowning me. And I just felt like, and then the fact that I am not a great swimmer. It was one of those things where you have to train yourself. And the weight of the world, the water was literally about to suffocate me, where I was feeling like I was going to drown if just one more weight of the world uh, would, fall upon me per se. And so you're out there, you're in the water, and you're not doing anything to move ahead, to get ahead, to train yourself, to get out, to move. You're going to end up drowning.
So Charmian, what are the series of events that led up to you realizing that you were actually depressed? What are the signs and the symptoms? Like, what was that moment that made that aha moment to where you realized, wait a minute, this is more than just sadness. I'm actually depressed.
So I think for me, it was once I started like consistently crying. So, like I said, I was the go to person. I was always out, I was always into something. But soon as I hit the door to my home, it was like I was consistently crying, like all the time. It was almost like I was trying to
Mm.
show face when I was out in the world. And because I had so many projects and things that I was trying to get done, because people depended on me, it was a lot of energy going into trying to be the person that people remembered me or know of me to be, right? And so after all of this crying that was uncontrollable, all the time where I was just crying myself to sleep, I'm like, what is this? I started looking up depression, and it was someone had mentioned it, and I was like, depression, I can't be depressed, you know, especially because of my faith. Oftentimes it's hard for believers to accept that they can be depressed. And I feel like because of that, they stay stuck in that depressive state for so long. And so once I started researching it and I looked at some of the symptoms, I had a lot of them. Um, One of the things is I love to cook. And because I love to cook, I love to eat, right? But my appetite changed. It was nothing that I wanted. And I thought that, okay, at first it was like, maybe I'm sick of this, I'm sick of that. My appetite completely changed. Um, I had trouble sleeping. I could only sleep a few hours of the day. I was always tired. I wanted to be alone. Even though my appetite changed, my hormones changed, I gained a lot of weight, which made it even worse, right? I was always anxious for a lot of things. I could never focus. My focus was gone. And, even with partners that I was working with, they noticed that, I couldn't focus. Things were not, I wasn't on point a lot when it came to a lot of my projects. And it was just like my mind, I was all over the place all the time. And then when I researched, that was a lot of the things that were like on the list. And you don't really think about those being symptoms of depression, because for me, I always thought that people that were depressed, just stayed home all the time and probably cried, but maybe to the point where they wanted to take their life, and I never got to that point. And so it took a long time to even discover or even fathom the the notion that I would be depressed, because it was not to that deep depression. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. And, I'm glad you pointed that out because I think a lot of the signs and symptoms get missed because, like you said, maybe you're a believer and you think, oh, well, depression doesn't happen to
Right.
believers, because we need to have faith and we need to believe that we are going to overcome this, right?
No,
Because
we
we
are
are
overcomers,
overcomers.
right?
Yes, we shall overcome. But the truth of the matter is depression, honey, depression sees
Yes.
past that. And it's crazy because, being that you're such a go-getter and you were always out doing everything for everyone, it's very hard for others to think that some like depression could take over someone
Hmm.
such as yourself. But those signs and symptoms that you listed, those are, I could relate to every single one of them. And I wanted to touch on the topic of
Hmm.
clinical depression as opposed to a more milder form of depression, because here's the thing, some people may be not as depressed as others, but you're
Right.
still depressed. And I think it's important to realize that, right? So some of the signs and symptoms that you named are right here on the Mayo
Okay.
Clinic website. Feelings of sadness, tearfulness, emptiness, or hopelessness. I know I've felt like that too. And I love how you said it started when you came home and shut the door, right? Because it's almost like you get home and the shell
Hmm.
just comes off. It's almost like taking your shoes and your bra off from
Yes.
work, right? You get home, it's all coming off. And I think that's a lot for, especially for a lot of women. We get home and we're just
Yes.
exhausted the whole day. We've had to put on this show, this facade, smiles, just complying with everyone's request. But then when we get home, we have no energy, not even
Yes.
for ourselves. So, like another thing, tiredness, lack of energy, reduced appetite. That's one of the
Hmm.
things you mentioned. Weight loss or weight gain. And then I think too, with the weight gain, that also goes with being
Yes.
stressed, because with depression comes, right? Stress and anxiety, which raises the cortisol levels. And then you could be eating as good as you want or exercising like crazy, but when you're stressed or depressed, that weight, it won't budge. It won't go anywhere. So, I think just mentioning those signs and symptoms is so helpful, especially to the viewers who may think they're not depressed and may think, oh, I'm just, my appetite has changed, or or it's not that bad. But no, these are like real things to consider. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of touch on that to show that everything that you were experiencing is according to Mayo Clinic. Yeah, those are signs of depression. And I'm even looking now and it says, trouble thinking. I think you mentioned that as well. Concentration, making decisions, remembering things. I know for me, that's a huge issue, like having brain fog and just not being able to focus. Or like I can't start the day without coffee. And it's not necessarily that coffee gave me the energy. I feel like it gave me some
Hmm.
mental clarity, and kind of got me out of that depressive state, but only
Right.
temporarily. So um, but yeah, I appreciate you sharing those signs and symptoms, and I'm pretty sure that some people in the audience can also relate. Now, this brings me to my next question. Now, I want to put a disclaimer
Okay.
before I put this question out there. This is not to replace
Correct.
medical advice, right? For any of you that are watching, I'm going to ask Charmian a question as it relates to clinical depression and getting a diagnosis. Okay,
Okay.
here's the question. According to the Mayo Clinic, they do say that taking antidepressants and participating in psychological counseling can help and
Hmm.
may help, but does not say that that's a proven method. So, Charmian, what would you say to someone who says, hey, I've been diagnosed as clinically depressed and my doctor wants me to take antidepressants? How do you feel about that?
So I I wasn't diagnosed by a doctor with depression. But like you said, if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, sounds like a duck, it's a duck, right? And so I looked at the symptoms and I knew for me it was depression. Now, Because there are many different levels of depression. I see it like this: I did not have to do that. And would had I gone to a physician to for them to diagnose me, and if it was a state where it was clinical for, for me to be prescribed medication, I look at it just like this: there's medication that you should take for high blood pressure, or you can eat better, right? And so
Facts.
oftentimes when it's, you know, pre-diabetes or pre-high blood pressure or whatever, the doctor can say, hey, it's a little high. If you change your diet, you can correct it, or you can take this medication, right? And
Yep.
so it definitely depends on the state of where the person is, because I don't want to knock medication, because I'm not a doctor, number one, and I haven't been there. And so for me, who is a person where medication is my last result, uh, I would have to, consider where that person is, um, and then support them either way. So if it's someone that is just far gone and they may be on the brinks of suicide at this point, you know, then you may want to start off on small dosages. I don't know. If it's someone who has a strong will, because someone can have high blood pressure that is off the roof, and you can change your diet, but you may have to start on mild dosage but at a point where you can wean yourself off. And so, it's it's subjective depending on who it is and what state they're in. You know what I mean? I definitely would always encourage anyone to try to not take medication first, but I am also mindful that certain levels may need it in the beginning to help. But it's like anything else. If you don't want to be dependent on that, just like your high blood pressure medicine, people can reverse that if they eat right, exercise, and do the things that they need to do, where they're not on the medication. Or you can just take the medication and continue not to exercise and not eat right, right? So it just depends on the person and their willpower and what they are willing to do to get it done, because it's a process. It's not easy, and it's not something that it's not like a cold where you can take medicine for 2 weeks and now you don't have a cold anymore. Depression doesn't work like that. It's like weight gain. And I
Right.
think I talked about that in my book. You have to exercise to keep it off. Depression, you have to consistently work at it to prevent it from happening again. Because if you don't and you allow the same things to happen, it can sneak back on you.
hmm And I think that's a good point. Like, again, disclaimer: if you've been diagnosed with clinical depression and are recommended to take antidepressants, again, we're not saying not to take the medication, but like Charmion said, try to wean yourself off and try to incorporate natural modalities. Now, as you guys know, this is a show that focuses on natural health. So my next question is going to be, Charmion, do you think there is a connection between food and depression?
Absolutely. Um, and the reason I say that is because there are certain foods that are going to make you sluggish. It's certain foods that will affect your mood, your hormones, um, and your energy. And so, oftentimes, if you're already sad and you have low energy, you're not eating right, then you're not healthy. And so, oftentimes, a lot of that can contribute to your depression. Will it cause depression? No. I can eat all the bonbons that I want. All the potato chips, all the cookies, cakes, ice cream. Eating unhealthy is not going to cause depression. But if you are depressed, it's something, your health is very important. Just like someone who is not diabetic. you know, they can eat whatever they want, but now that you are, the food that you eat is going to affect your health. Does that make sense? And so it's not going to cause you to have depression, but eating right and healthy is going to give you that energy that you're not going to have, because you're depressed. It takes your energy. Well, if it takes your energy and you're already eating unhealthy, you're already not exercising, you're already not getting your vitamin D, you're not in the, it's coupling and compounding, for lack of a better term, your depression. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I just want to reiterate on that. I love how you said multiple times that this is on levels, right? And so like with the food, I love how you answered absolutely. I was waiting for that. I was like, please, please say yes. So I'm so glad that we're on the same page, because what I've noticed in my personal journey with it, and also doing some research, is that like you said, it's not necessarily certain foods that we're eating, but it does have a lot of, and this is wild. Sometimes people can fall into a depressive state because of what they're not eating. So it's not necessarily that you're eating, like you said, too many potato chips or too many what bonbons, but you're not getting enough nutrition into your diet. And so like lack of B vitamins, vitamin D, getting sunlight, omega 3 fatty
Mm.
acids. That's another one I didn't realize. So y'all eat your salmon, okay? Because salmon is loaded with healthy fats, and that actually does play somewhat of a role when we're not getting those key vitamins and minerals and nutrients into our bodies. So it's like multifaceted. It's not just one approach. It's on many different levels that we have to do to help combat depression. So now, with that in mind, Charmian, is there anything else you want to touch on in regards to like food, or just like kind of eating in general?
Well, I didn't really focus on the nutrition part of it, even though I know that that's important because food feeds the brain. And so the main component of depression is your mind and your thinking and your brain. And so I know that that has a lot to do with it. And so I always encourage people to make sure that they are following a balanced diet, even though I'm working on that part.
Me too.
I get all of my fruits
It's
and
hard.
vegetables in, but I get everything else in too.
Girl, listen, I'm
Listen.
you would think I would know better, but I gotta work on it. It's
I
hard.
love
It
I
is
love the
hard.
fruits and vegetables. And when I tell you I get
That's
them
good.
all in. So that's not the
That's
problem.
good.
It's the other stuff
Right.
that I still get all
Right.
in as well.
Right, but you know what though, you touched on the brain and the mind.
Yes.
And so in your book you have a chapter called Train Your
Mhm.
Mind. Let's dive into that, right? Because you said in your journey you didn't focus so much on the nutritional part, but more so on the mind and the brain. So let's talk about the power of our minds and our thoughts. We would love to hear your thoughts on that.
So one of the things that I am an advocate on is happiness is a choice. And so that is how I came up with the name for my workshop. And the reason I said that is because it's your mindset. Depression, to me, one of the key components in depression. And if anybody that has been depressed and overcome depression, they know that they had to transform how they think about everything. And I say
Yes.
everything. You have to train your mind. And it's a battle. And that's why I said depression in itself is something that you have to work at consistently. Because if you don't have those positive thoughts, those positive affirmations, if you don't think, if you always think negatively about every situation, always feeling defeated, the reason you feel defeated is because of what you've told yourself that you needed to accomplish by a certain time. You are allowing the thoughts of others to predict your accomplishment, your goals, who you are, what you should look like, what you should wear. Society has put so much on us. And I really believe that that's why depression is so uh, widespread now. It's so common now than before because people are like, why, is everybody depressed now? Like, what is this? Is people just now speaking on it? Or, is it just something that people are always talking about? And I honestly believe that it's not that it's what we're thinking about now, what we're just now talking about. And so people are just now opening up about it. Yes, there were a lot of people that were depressed that didn't know that they were depressed. And now, because it is something that we are looking at culturally and in society, that it's more normal and it's not a stigma, anymore to be depressed. I really believe that it's because of how we allow the world and society to judge us and how we perceive ourselves because of the standards that social media has put on so many people. How you have to look, how you have to speak, how you have to talk, what you're wearing. Nowadays, oh my, you can't wear the same outfit twice. I
Yeah.
don't listen. You see
Yep.
this, you'll see it again. You'll see it
I
again.
love it. I love it.
And I don't care. You'll see it again.
Yeah.
Yes, you see these
Right.
earrings? You'll see them again.
Uh-huh.
And so it's so much. And it's funny because I struggle even now with my weight, right? I've never had issues with my weight. I would gain weight and run 2 miles and it's gone, right? I was like, oh, okay, well, let me start running this week. In a month, I'm back slim and trim. I put my tennis shoes on and they laugh at me. They're like, that's cute. Oh, you gonna run today? Oh, okay. Don't break your ankle because that's all you're gonna do. And so I struggle with that. And I was never a person that was self-conscious of anything about myself.
Mhm.
But after, the weight gain and just being a perfectionist as well,
Mm.
that played a key component. And so the reason, again, my mind, what is perfect?
Mhm.
So it's subjective. Some people say, oh, this is perfect, that's perfect. And so for me, being a perfectionist, I had to train my mind to say, you know what? It's okay. It's not changing the perfectionism in me, if that's a word. Listen. Um,
It's a word
okay.
today.
Okay, because I will make them up all the time. Just so you know, I will make it up.
Hey, nothing wrong with
I
that.
writing and I get the squiggly lines all the time. It's like, oh, that's not a word. Okay. Well,
Play ask dictionary.
I'm sorry, I digress.
Okay.
But yeah, and so having to know that it's okay to be a perfectionist and still strive for that, but it's okay when I didn't meet that. It's okay to progress, and it's okay um, to not have everything. It's okay to have 8 out of 10. Like, you're not going to die because you have 8 out of 10. Me, I thought I was dead all the time. Like, no. And I put that pressure on others as well around me.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think giving ourselves grace is important because I too can relate to the whole perfectionism thing. I get it. I have been there. Like as I was reading your book, I was like, wait a minute, this is me. I am her. She is me. This is crazy how much I could relate to you. Even going back to like the whole acting thing, and growing up, I wanted to act. I wanted to sing. I wrote music. All of that. So when I tell you I can relate, I totally can relate. And being a perfectionist is one thing that I have struggled with my whole life, and just feeling like I had to please everyone. And what I've realized now is that, like you said, it's okay if you don't meet that mark. Hey, you strive for a 10 and you get an 8, that's okay. And I think an important message for everyone is no one is
Right.
perfect. No one can reach complete perfection, and you have to give yourself grace, because when you don't give yourself grace and you're so hard on yourself, that is really when depression sits in, when you don't meet that mark. So I think that is so key, of saying it's okay if you fail. And I'm using the word failure because I used to never like to use the word
Mhm.
failure, but I'm using the word failure because we learn through our failures. So failure is a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
So I wanted to talk about failure. You said, you never wanted to use that word. And so I look at it a little bit different as well, because for me, you only fail if you give up. And so if you never give
Mm,
up, then you're not a failure. And so it's
yes.
also with training your mind. And just because you give up on a certain project or a certain idea, if you're consistently coming up with something else, you know what? That just wasn't it, but I'm not a failure because I'm still moving forward. And so I don't look at that term like you're not a failure only if you've given up. And so if
Mhm.
you've given up, it's something that you've decided to do, right? And
Yes,
so
absolutely.
if you've decided to give up, why are you angry? Because it's something that you can control, right? So even if it's something that you had to give up on, you know what? I'm done with this. You're done with it. Be okay with that. And so oftentimes we can't be okay with something not working. Everything is not for everyone. And oftentimes we put a lot of weight on our shoulder because we're trying to do things that we're not equipped to do. Uh, and it's a lot of people with dreams, goals, aspirations, but nobody's there to say, oh, you want to be a recording artist, but you can't sing.
I love how candid you are and how real you are.
Yes. I,
This this there was a pause, like, yes, she said that, y'all, she said it. And speaking of saying things that might get some people a little I don't want to say offended, but it's a little controversial.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go to there's a part in your book, I love it. When I read it, I was like, whoa, I was blown away, but I was kind of like, oh my God. But I'm like, she's right. So in your book, you say, have you chosen to be depressed? Your immediate response would simply be, who on earth would choose to be depressed? My immediate and candid response, you. Girl, I felt that. I felt that. Can you please elaborate on that? Because that's a hard pill to swallow for, for
And it
some.
is. And so just to first go into the type of personality I have. And so I have always been the person that was very candid. And it has not always been received well, even though I have a heart where it's never to offend or hurt, but it's just to be quite candid. And the reason I've always been like that is because growing up, it was people teetering over the truth. And because it was like that, it was always a lack of understanding, always room for, oh, I didn't know, but I told you. Well, you really didn't because you were kind of like on the surface. And so I've always was just like right in the jugular, like, but it was because there was no room to say that you didn't understand. It was no room to say, well, I thought you meant. Mm-mm. And all my family, all my friends, they'll tell you, it's never a moment where they say, well, I thought you meant. Mm-mm. Because then you know that they were not talking about me.
Right.
Because I kind of say what I mean and I mean what I say. Now, I've been redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Let's just say that. So I have learned to there, communicate a little bit better
Mhm.
in saying certain things, but I always like to keep it 100. And so when I
Mhm.
say you have chosen to be depressed, it's your fault. And that's hard. And it's a hard pill to swallow. And sometimes it can make someone say, you know what? She don't care. She's insensitive. And it's almost like saying somebody is fat. Nobody wants to tell you you're fat. Be like, oh, yeah, you can, am I, you can stand to lose a few pounds. No, you can stand to lose a lot. You need to do some backaways, back away from the table. Okay. But nobody wants to say that because it's mean. It's perceived as mean. Nobody wants to tell the person who may be sick. Like I said, I think that was one of the examples that I used in my book. The doctor doesn't want to say, well, you are suffering from this and it's your fault. Yeah, because you want to eat fried chicken every day and you don't want to exercise. So that's your fault, right? Uh, and I have one son, and he will tell you if you ever had to interview him, he was like, yeah, because growing up, if he couldn't do anything, I was like, you sure that's what you want to do? He started playing music. He wanted to be a DJ, right? He was like, "Oh, I want to be a DJ." He was in college. I was like, "Oh, I mean, in high school." I was like, "Okay, we got his little equipment," and he was like, "I want to be a DJ." All right, and I was like, "All right, so let me hear." I said, "You you want to be a paid DJ, or you just want to DJ?" Because nobody's going to pay for that. So if you want to be paid, then I need you to work on that transition because you dancing, right? Then the music, and you got to stop for the next song and got to figure out what. No, yeah. So no, when you're singing, be like, oh, I want to. And I was, a director in acting. People was like, oh, I want to act. Oh, okay, well, let's see. Mm-mm, 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 mm-mm.
You're hardcore,
But
very
if
hardcore.
you're not told, then you can't progress, And so oftentimes people are being stuck in certain things. And even as an entrepreneur, I would help people with their businesses and they're just like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, but they have no administrative skills. It has to come together. And so with the depression, if you are depressed, it's really something that you have chosen. And the reason I say that is because you haven't trained your mind. You've allowed things in your life. You don't set boundaries. Some people don't know about boundaries. You know what I mean? You have allowed the weight of life to overcome you. There's certain things that you have to do. It's certain things that people in your space, relationships, jobs, people say, I hate my job. Do you know how many jobs out here? I hate this. I hate that. I don't like this. You don't have to be a part of that. And depression to me is a choice that you've made because there are things that happen that allows you to or that has allowed you to get into that state, and it can be prevented. Anything that can be prevented, you've allowed. And so
Hmm.
people don't look at it like that. But when they think about it, and when I go through all of the steps of depression and how people was able to get into their depressive state and the reasons and the causes, they're like, oh, well, I guess it is my fault. But it's not a negative.
Hmm.
And so, although it's your fault, that's a good thing. You know why it's good? Because you can control it. It's the worst thing is for depression not to be your fault, which means it's nothing you can do about it. If it's your fault and you are contributing to that, then you can be well on your way to never being depressed ever again.
I agree with you on that. And I think it goes into saying, um, no one is coming to save you, right? Like you have to be your own cheerleader.
Mhm.
You have to be the one that's gonna get you out of that depressive state. And also I wanna reiterate, when you say depression is your fault, for just so we don't, have any
Mhm.
misconfusion, I think there's a fine line with that,
Correct.
right? Because certain things are out of our control. Like let's say, for example, we lose a spouse, right? Or we lose a job, or something very traumatic happens in our life that we can't control. Like Charmian was saying, if we can control it, that's a good thing because we can control getting out of it. So certain situations like that that are out of our control, of course, we're gonna be sad. We're gonna be, crying, and it may take a while for us to. And I don't want to say get over it, because do you really ever get over losing a loved
Mhm.
one? Probably
Mhm.
not. However, staying in that sad state of mind over a period of weeks and months and years, that's when it becomes depression. And that, in my opinion, is where, and Charmian, correct me if I'm wrong, and let me know if you agree or disagree, but that is when you choose to stay in that state, right? Because you can't bring back a loved one. When they're gone, they're gone. And I'm just using this as an example. It could be anything. At some point, you have to let it go and you have to move on with your life. And you have to get out of that state of that negative thinking. You have to pick yourself up by the bootstrap and make a decision that, hey, I'm not staying in this depressive state anymore. Or, like Charmian was saying, a relationship. You might be in a bad relationship or in a bad job. You have to make the choice to get out of that because no one else is going to do it for you. So, Charmian, can you talk a little bit about the difference of just being generally sad and as opposed to being in a depressive state, and give our audience maybe one or two things that they can do that will help them to get out of a depressive state?
So, you talked about losing a loved one. And so that's very touchy because it depends on, you know, the nature of the loss. Sometimes it's tragic. Sometimes it could be a parent, a spouse, a child. Um, it could be a sudden death or, something that, a ill parent that was sick or even a child sometimes that had stages of, illness where you anticipated or expected. So it could be expected or unexpected. And so sadness can lead to depression, but sadness does not equal depression. And so just because you're sad does not mean that you're depressed. And so getting over sadness from a loss of a loved one does not mean that you're depressed. And so there could be certain things that you're dealing with in your sadness as far as regret is concerned because of the loved one. It could be that you wish you could have spent more time or you wish you could have resolved some unwanted or undesirable tension before the person was lost. Maybe it was a tragic loss. It could be on many different levels. And that sadness can lead to a sense of depression. But just because you're deeply saddened by a loss does not equal depression. And so sometimes people can be in a deep depression or deep sadness and thinking, oh, this is depression. And so, because some of the symptoms are the same, you may lose your sense of appetite, because you feel like that loss is so great, right? And so, when it starts to seep into, your hormone changes and your thoughts being construed, and you can't think, and you um, are, not cognizant of what you're doing. But the difference, in my opinion, between sadness and depression um, is sadness typically wants that forgiveness or you have made peace with the loss of that loved one, it's never going to come back again. You know what I mean? And so let's just say I lost my my sister, which I did. I lost my sister, and I was very sad when I lost my sister. Because we had a very close relationship, and I didn't have that person to bounce back on. And I think even when I was going through my depression, I didn't have her. And maybe with her counseling, she was like the one person that I could go to. I didn't have anybody that I could go to. Everybody came to me. And so once I was over that deep sadness for her, that sadness is not going to come back. Depression can come back if you don't if you don't take hold of the reasons why you're depressed. When you're sad, and it's something that once you're over that loss, and once you're at peace, I wouldn't say over, when you're at peace with the departure of the loved one that has passed away. And even on a broken relationship, some people can get really sad from a broken relationship, and so that sadness, once you're over that person, it's not coming back. It's not coming back. And so that's how I define the two differences. Some of the steps you asked for people to get over that sense of sadness that can lead to depression is that you have to make peace with the fact that where you are right now, you cannot change the past. The past is the past, and you can't change it. And oftentimes we regret things that we could have done in the past. Why didn't I? I should have done, and I could have done, or I shouldn't have taken this. Maybe it was a bad relationship, or whatever the case may be. If it's a sense of sadness, it's always regret, but you cannot change the past. And so once you accept that the past can't be changed, then there's a weight that is lifted, because you know what? I did it. It's over. It's nothing that I can do about it to make it any better, because the past is the past.
Mhm.
And we can't relive the past, because that's what it is. The only thing we can do is be a better person today. You know what I mean? And so whether it's the loss of a loved one that maybe you were not at peace with, then there's family and friends that you're not at peace with now. So make, that reconciliation with your family and friends right now, so that won't happen
Mhm.
again. If it's a bad relationship, and that you're saddened by that, what were the things and what were the signs in that relationship that you could have done better? Then be a better you, or not or set better boundaries. Whatever the case may be, you have to accept that whatever has gone on in the past is the past, and you have to forgive yourself. If you can't forgive yourself, then you can't forgive others. The forgiveness starts
Mm.
at home first.
Absolutely. Wow. That was powerful because so what I'm hearing you saying is live in the moment, live in the present. Stop going back to the past. And then also one thing I think we also tend to do is we tend to live in the future and make up scenarios and project our fears and literally conjure up stories in our mind, right? Like because of either past experiences or what we think is going to happen, and that can also lead to a lot of stress and anxiety. I don't know if you've ever done this, Charmian, but I'm guilty. I will make up a scenario in my head and play it out, visualize it as it happening, kind of like thinking of the worst case scenario. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I have to catch myself. And I'm like, why am I doing this? This has not happened. And also going back to like the power of our mind and training our mind,
Mhm.
I think we have to be careful of the thoughts that we put or we allow into our mind, because we can literally manifest these things and they haven't even happened yet. But here we are either thinking about the past, dwelling on the past, and then thinking, hey, this is going to happen again. I just know it's going to happen to me. Same thing with like maybe an illness, going back to how you were talking about preventing things. If it's something that can be prevented, we shouldn't have to deal with it in the first place. And of course, that's easier said than done. But if you can work on preventing things or catching that negative thought, I think that can also help to get a grip on even reaching that stage of depression. So I think that that's very powerful that you said that. And going back to, and I know you have your workshop coming up, can you tell us what we can expect when attending your workshop? Is it in person? Is it virtual? How can people register? How soon will it be available? And what we can expect to learn as far as the different tactics and techniques to overcoming depression.
So I do have an online workshop, and then I have an in-person workshop that's in Ocoee. Both of them will start next month in November. You can go to my website and register. The ones that are online will be on Tuesday evenings. There are two times. I want to say it's 8 and 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that just gives people that are on different time zones an opportunity to chime in. Um, on Tuesday, even though there are two separate times, I'll be covering the same material. With the 3 day workshop, it's a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's Friday evening, it's pretty much all day Saturday, and then a Sunday afternoon for about 4 hours on a Sunday. Um, but the in person, obviously, is more intimate environment. Online, it's multiple people, but uh, the tools and things that I teach basically resonate to the people because there is a target audience for me uh, that I feel that I resonate more to. And those are the people that are the entrepreneurs, the go getters, the life of the party, the perfectionism. Or the perfectionist people, the people that always seem overwhelmed, who has several projects and just always feel defeated. And those are the people that I resonate most with, that will get most out of the the workshop. And the reason I say that is because it's just like anything else, right? And so let's just go back to food. And I always go back. Listen. So, just with a dieting plan, let's just say, for instance, so we can have the same dieting plan, and one diet plan will work for you. We can be on the same diet plan. You're losing weight, and I'm not losing anything. And it's because of your body makeup. And so the makeup is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about who would resonate more with the workshop is the type of person that I was, because those are the steps that I used. And it's not to say that it won't help anyone else that's going through depression, because a lot of the things that I go through, just like weight loss is general. More calories burned or less calories, you already know, whatever that is, you burn more
Mhm.
calories than the more weight. And so there are general things within the workshop that's going to help anybody. But I'm just saying the people that are going to get the most from it are the people that resonate with my personality, the things that I went through, because those are the steps that I go over that I use to overcome my specific depression. Because there's, like you said, there's different levels of depression.
You have a chapter that, and I forgot the exact name of
Okay.
it. Matter of fact, hold on, let me look it up real quick because I want to get this right. This is the book, by the way, guys.
Yes.
Beautiful cover. I love that. I love that title. But you have a chapter. I When I read it, I initially thought you were referring to exercising. It's called Get Active, right?
Mhm.
So in I'm like, oh, get active. We're gonna be working out and doing all this stuff, but and I don't want to give it all away. I will say this: it's not about exercise in Charmion's book. Get Active actually has a different meaning, and that's one of the things she'll go over in the workshop. But let's talk briefly about exercise, because not just exercise, because okay, we do know that exercise releases those feel good
Correct.
hormones, endorphins, and it just makes us feel good. But it also has multiple
Mhm.
benefits. It makes us feel good, it makes us look good if it's working, of course, because like you said, we could be doing a diet, we could be doing an exercise plan, and it may not, certain things work better for certain individuals. But let's talk about, because you also mentioned before about social media,
Mhm.
right? Putting like expectations on us. We should look like this, we should dress like this is how we should talk, this is how we should walk. I do want to touch on the importance, especially as women, right? one, exercise. You know me, my show is geared towards natural
Hmm.
health and just elevating mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And I think exercise is very important because exercise has been shown to help with
Hmm.
depression. But it also does something for our appearance, right? So
Correct.
if we are overweight, like you mentioned, you struggled with weight issues. I struggled with weight issues, and and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's safe to say that as women, especially as women, not just women, but as women, we take our appearance very
Hmm.
seriously. So when we are overweight or we don't fit into those favorite pair of jeans, that makes us feel like maybe not depressed, but sad. But when we have lost the weight and we look good and we are just rocking it out, we feel better about ourselves.
Absolutely.
So, one thing I want to say, yes, one thing I want to say is exercise is great, but also, and I thought this was kind of vain when I heard it before, but there was a woman, and I'll try to find her information and put her information in the show. But she basically talks about how, as a man, his value is more based in his money,
Hmm.
but as women, our value is based in our looks. And I know that sounds very vain, but hear me out, because when I heard it, I was like, who does she think she is? But then I was like, it's so true. When you look good, you feel good. So I want to encourage everyone out there, especially women, girl, put on some makeup, put on those heels, put on that nice dress, because a lot of times, I know when I was walking with depression, I wouldn't do my makeup, I wouldn't do my hair, I wouldn't dress up, and because I didn't feel like I looked good, I felt bad about myself. And another thing is, I would go in public, and on the days where I'm bummy and just looking like who did it and why, people would not hold open the door for me. People would not look my way. People would not say hello. And that made me feel worse because it was like I went unnoticed, and I was like, dang, I really felt like a no one in society. Now, on the flip side, I would go out, I would dress up, do my hair, do my makeup, look good. I would feel good about myself. Oh, everyone's holding open the door, everyone is smiling, you just get, it's like a different energy. And also, I think it goes to, you get what you put out, right? So if you are putting out happiness and love and joy and you're smiling at others, you get that in return. But when you don't feel good, when you don't look good, it shows. People look and be like, oh, they look sad, they look miserable, and it doesn't make them attracted to you. It doesn't make them want to. And again, I don't want to sound vain. I'm trying to be very careful, but Charmian, let me know if you feel what I'm saying with that. Like, am I making sense with what I'm saying?
A lot of people will say and agree with what you're saying. And so with the study of the training of the mind, now you have to be open because I'm a I'm a punch you right here.
Okay.
It goes back to, it's funny that you say that because that's what it's normal. It's like you have to look good to feel good. If you look good, then you feel good. And so you made the statement, and when I'm out and I'm bummy, nobody's opening the door for me. Nobody's doing this unless I look good, unless I have my heels on and my makeup on, but it's your confidence. And so whether you have your sweatpants on and your hair tied behind your head and it's up, and I hate bonnets, so I don't really want to use this because I wish it was illegal to wear a bonnet in public. I really do. And it's a whole other list that I wish was illegal, but I digress. But let's just say, but if you have that confidence, which most people don't, but why don't you? Because
Hmm.
society has said that's what looks good.
Wow.
Right.
You
And
did hit
so,
me in the jugular.
yeah, society has
Yes.
told you that you had to wear that makeup for you to be pretty, right? Society
Yeah.
has told you that, of course, listen, I love me some makeup and I'm a girly girl, right? But if I don't have my makeup on, because I'm also a woman that will go out without makeup, and so, if you are a female, in my opinion, I'm one out of 350 million zillion people in the world, right? So, it's just one opinion. But I feel that if you're a woman and you can't go out not to the grocery store, not to run to the gas station. If you can't go out without makeup, then that's something within you that says, you know what? I'm not pretty enough.
Mm.
And it's not to say that you shouldn't go out looking fabulous. I want everybody to go out looking fabulous. I'm not saying, oh, Charmion said I got to go out and not wear makeup. No, that's not what I said, because I really want everybody to wear makeup. I do. I really want everybody to wear makeup because it does enhances your, features. I'm not saying not to. What I'm saying, if in your mind you feel like I'm ugly or nobody's going to talk to me because I don't have on any makeup or because I don't have this outfit on, or I mean, I know people that, girlfriends, friends, they can't get ready because they've changed 100,000 million times because this doesn't look right. To who? Now,
Right.
now, it's certain things that you shouldn't wear. So I'm not
Yes.
I'm not saying that either. You know what I mean? So it's the catch 22. But at the same time, you have to build that confidence within yourself. So it's what you're thinking, how you think about yourself. I go out all the
Mm.
time and I would just have on some sweats, and because of my confidence level, and I'm laughing, joking, or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, you're so pretty." And I'll be like, I'm not, thank you, but in my mind, like, you think this pretty, right? You wait. If this is pretty, but it's your confidence level, right? And so it's
Yes.
all about what you are confident in. Yes, is
Mm.
and if your confidence level is here when you have on your sweatpants, no makeup, and your hair pulled, what? You put on some makeup and got your heels on? They can't tell you nothing then.
So, Charmian, do you offer that in your workshop? Because, honey, I
Yes,
need that. I need that
hunty.
confidence.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So some of the chapters that I cover is clean house and trash it.
Hmm.
That's a good one because it's a lot of things
Yes.
that we need to throw away. A lot of
Oh,
things are
yeah.
metaphors, right? But it's you got to clean, like, it's a lot of stuff. It's in your heart, it's in your mind, it's in your
Yeah.
house cuz
Hmm.
yeah. It's a reflection of how you feel.
Oh,
Um
yeah.
do not worry. A lot of times we worry about too much that we can't change. It goes back to not being able to change. Smile and choose happiness. That's another one. Train your mind, we already talked about. Sing a song. Now that's a good one. We have fun with that
That
one.
is. Now, while reading the book, I thought there was such a cute story that you and your son developed in regards to singing, I think the Pocket Song or
Yes.
something like that. Please share that with our audience because I thought that was so awesome. I love it.
So, one of the things, and I go over the songs and the type of songs that you should choose or whatever, and that you should have a pocket song. And so, a pocket song is a song no matter what the situation is, because you should have certain songs for certain things. If you're sad, if you're stressed out, if someone pisses you off, right? You know,
Mhm.
it's a lot of certain categories that you should have certain songs for. But then you should also have a pocket song. And a pocket song is a song that, that will resonate in any situation. And so my son and I, and I'm spiritual, right? So I love God. You don't love God? What's wrong with you? All right. So anyway, one of the songs that we came up with, and I'm gonna sing it for you, just briefly, and it has nothing to do with anything, but it's the nature of the song. When things happen, it just makes us both just burst out laughing. So we can be, at a store and someone is irate because of whatever the situation may be, or customer service is lacking, or, you know, oftentimes just even on the phone where someone is not helping you, people irate, road rage, whatever the case may be. And so the song is the
Get your
song,
tea.
right. So the song goes, I can barely sing it from smiling so hard. So I'm trying to um, get my face right. So first, what I'm going to do is I'll give you a scenario and then I'll just start singing the song. So I'm
Okay.
on the phone with someone in customer service. They're not helping me. And I have zero tolerance for incompetence and I'm working on it. So oftentimes when I'm on the phone with someone in customer service, because no one trains their employees right now, so I know that it's not their fault. So when you can't help me, the only thing I say, you know what, it's okay. Can I speak to someone else? And she's like, no.
Hmm.
Okay. So I was like, well, why? And she wants to go on and she wants to start, you know, to the point where if she's being recorded, she's not going to keep her job. Let's just say that. And
Oh.
so, in order for me to get a manager on the phone, I have to calm my nerves because I can't allow you to let me get to where you are. Right. And so
Hmm.
I just started singing, Jesus is real. She's talking.
Hmm.
I'm cutting her off. Jesus is real. Jesus is
Ooh.
real in my soul. And she's like, hello. I said, hi. And she said, are you singing? I said, yeah. And she was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh. I said, yeah, I was just giving you some whole music while you go get your manager. And so she started
Oh,
laughing. And she was
that was
like,
good.
you are so funny. And I said, I know you're having a bad day. And I know you don't mean to be mean to me. So I'm just singing until your spirit changes. And so she started
Hmm.
laughing again. And so before she transferred me, because she was already irritated about something else, she started to help
Hmm.
me and dig deep and
Hmm.
actually was able to help me without transferring me over to a manager. And so oftentimes, you know, my son will call me, especially when he was in college, and I'll pick up the phone and he's like, Jesus is real. And I'll say, what's wrong? And
Right,
he'll finish the
right.
song, Jesus is real. And so it's so funny because we'll be in uh a line where it's too long and we're just irritated and we're just like, and then we'll start singing Jesus is real. And so
That's
because
like
it's
your
funny, you know, we'll
yeah.
start laughing. But sing a song is very, you know, oftentimes people who can't sing, it's like, sing a song, what is that going to do? When it'll bless you, I'm telling you. When I
Yes.
teach you the steps and the type of songs to sing, singing and music, they said, is therapy, and it's a reason.
Yeah.
You know, music is
Hmm.
therapy and it's a reason. Sing a song is so very important. But yes, I go over a song and then I wrote a song for the workshop that I teach everybody, so you have to join the workshop to learn that. And it could be your
Nice.
pocket song. And you know, we did talk about get active, the why, I go over that, finding your peace.
Hmm.
And so that's a big one as well. And so I go over all of the steps in detail, and then there's exercises in the book. And so we have a lot of fun. It's therapeutic. Um, and so I I think everyone that leaves the class is very equipped to never be depressed again, and they leave knowing that happiness is a choice.
Amen. Amen. And Charmian, where can everyone find you? We're going to put everything up in the show notes, but just briefly, where can everyone find you? Your website, your social media, your contact info.
So my website for the workshops is Denoma Publishing. I know that's a lot. But it's Denoma publishing.com. Uh, and you can go online under workshops. There are several different types because I do writing workshops. And so just look for the Happiness is a Choice workshop because the workshop that's based off of the book here. Um, Also, for personal information or if you have any questions, you can email me at bookcharmion@gmail.com. You can follow me on social media. There's a Facebook group, Happiness is a Choice, that you can join. And then it's always information there. We have every day of the week where you can post certain things, like Monday is for motivation and Tuesdays are for I can't even remember, but every day of the week, there's something that you are allowed to post just to motivate people and encourage people. I just remember Fridays are fun days. So it's always something that you post that's funny, that's uplifting, that you can post on that. So, yes.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Charmian, for blessing us with your presence, with your insightfulness, all of the tips and tricks. And I cannot wait to attend your workshop. And
Yes.
for those of you in Orlando, Ocoee.
Yes.
Ocoee is where the in-person workshops are going to be. And then if you're not in Orlando or Florida, guess what? We have it online too. So
Yes.
please stay tuned. And Charmian, thank you so much.
Thank you for
I'm
having
just
me.
so blessed.
Yes.
You're welcome. You're welcome.